As the mayor of the city of New York, I don't, weigh into immigration issues, border issues. I have to provide services for families that are here, and that's what we're going to do. And that's what our responsibility as a city. I'm proud that this is a right to shelter state.
Because the argument is that this is what he always wanted. Yeah. He tweeted this back in October of 2021. We should protect our immigrants, period. Yes, New York will remain a sanctuary city under an Adams administration. The Wall Street Journal board, they called him out saying the blue state migrant crisis, they called it a political stunt. They said the political stunt of claiming to be sanctuary cities and states that Democrats pulled during the Trump years isn't fun anymore. They are learning, meaning New York's learning, how Texas and Florida feels. And if they want relief, they'll have to start putting more pressure on the Biden administration by being honest about the Biden administration's immigration failures.
Yeah.
We need leadership from President Biden, period. Democrats are looking bad right now in New York State, and that's unacceptable when we have to win at least 4 congressional seats to take back the House. So hopefully the president is listening.
Oh boy. Things are not looking good for New York City. Well, in today's video, we're going to go over to Black Conservative Perspective and react because, a lot of these liberal cities, they're just so dishonest. And that's what bothers me is, first of all, these migrants don't deserve to be treated like that. And the people in these cities deserve better. But to act as if this is not a real issue, to virtue signal and act like it doesn't necessarily matter, I'm like, you're just being dishonest. Like, you can't do that. And when the pressure comes down on you, when you have a reality check, okay, when you have a taste of your own medicine, it's too much for you to handle. Anyway, friends, let's go to Black Conservative Perspective for this one today. Brace yourself. We're going to have a good time.
For to rent here has created an overburdened system.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. On this episode of You Get What You Vote For, which is my favorite segment to do because it shows people, hopefully people that are watching my channel, that voting Democrat, voting liberal, voting progressive leads to chaos, right? There are dire consequences for voting for the extremist Democrat Party, okay? Because they are a party of extremists, okay? Almost all policy issues, they are extreme. They're extreme on crime. They're extreme on economics. They're extreme when it comes to foreign policy. They're extreme when it comes to immigration, okay? The Biden administration damn near supports open borders, right? Wide open borders, because they told the illegals, come to the United States. We can take care of you, right? And the woke progressives in these liberal cities, these sanctuary cities, also say, hey, come. We can take care of you, right? Thinking that these migrants would just stay in red states. Oh, Texas, Arizona, Florida, they'll deal with it, right? We'll never actually really have to deal with this problem, right? But we're going to virtue signal for votes, okay, by basically talking about how much we love and care about migrants. When the truth...
By the way, this guy is one of my favorite YouTubers, to be honest with you. I love his perspective. Here's the thing. They were lying the whole time. We knew they were lying, right? And I think when Governor Abbott and Russell Ron DeSantis from Florida began to ship those migrants to these different cities, that's when they began to realize how serious of an issue that stuff was. And this is only a small amount comparing to what the red states are dealing with.
Is that liberals are now some of the loudest when it comes to being anti-illegal immigration. Now that Texas, Florida, Arizona, some of these red states have decided to transport the border to the liberal cities, okay? Because now they are sending illegals to sanctuary cities like Chicago, New York, blue states like Massachusetts, okay, who, have now declared a state of emergency due to the influx of migrants, okay? It's so bad in Massachusetts that the governor, okay, this is a state that overwhelmingly voted Democrat. They voted for Biden. Okay, this is a Democrat state. They're now begging citizens to house the migrants, okay, to let illegals into their homes so that illegals can eventually take their jobs. Take a look.
Today, declaring a state of emergency in response to the uptick of migrants arriving in Massachusetts. The influx has pushed the shelter system to its capacity. 22 News Data's reporter Ellen Fleming explains the impact being felt statewide.
The migrant crisis has now turned into a migrant emergency as the state's shelter system is being pushed to the brim to house those arriving to the Bay State. Today, Governor Maura Healey announced a state of emergency with the rising number of migrant families arriving in Massachusetts and the lack of shelter in the state. Currently, there are almost 5,600 families or over 20,000 individuals in state shelter. This number is 80% higher than it was last year at this time. In a letter, Healey points to federal policies on immigration and work authorization, inadequate production of affordable housing, and the end of COVID-era food and housing security programs as all reasons to why the migrant emergency is only getting worse. During today's news conference, Healey stressed that expediting work authorizations is of the most importance.
We do need action from the federal government and the federal administration in terms of expediting work authorizations. People are anxious to work. We know there are employers around this state, across industries, who are looking for that workforce. Our call is for federal funding as well as work authorizations, and to that end, we'll take it through any means possible.
Most importantly, if you have an extra room or suite in your home, please consider hosting a family. Safe housing and
She's serious?
Shelter is our most pressing need. Become a sponsor family. You can contact the Brazilian Worker Center for more information on how you can step up if you're willing to have.
No, take them to Biden's house. Let's start there first. Let's take them to Mr. Biden's, fill the White House with migrants first, and then take them to your house. Because you guys have money, you guys supported this movement. So we're going to take them to your house, let them live in your house, and then whatever's left, we can talk about whether or not they could come to our house. These people are ridiculous.
An additional family be part of.
And this is not to say we shouldn't care for the migrants. The fact that they are here, they're human beings, they need to be cared for. But they should be the ones solving this problem because they're the ones who created it. They're the ones who created it. They were lying to the migrants, lying to themselves, saying that they were sanctuary cities. They were acting as if they care about these individuals. In reality, they don't even care. So now, when the reality is in their face now, no, I want you guys to take migrants in your home. No, it doesn't work like that.
Your family. If you're a local official, a college president, a business owner, or a faith leader with an available building or space in your community.
I'm a faith leader, and we do have place in our building at our church. No, we won't do that. We're not going to turn our churches into places for migrants to live because of your policies that we had nothing to do with. I don't think so.
Please work with us to offer it as a shelter site. If you're a social service provider, please consider becoming an emergency assistance homeless shelter provider. Our resources are stretched thin there as well. And if you're a hotel or a motel owner, consider opening it up for emergency assistance.
You know what you're not doing? You're not talking about Biden's and his policies and those Democrats' policies. Let's address that. Let's talk about closing the borders. Let's talk about building the wall. Let's talk about these real issues that the Biden administration itself has been perpetuating. Why not talk about that instead of you trying to come to the people and appealing to the grassroots? No, go to the top because the issue starts at the top and it needs to be addressed at the top.
If you're a landlord or a property owner, we can use you too. We can connect you with service providers to help transition families into permanent housing. Everyone has something they can offer.
As of now, 43 hotels and motels around the state are being used as emergency shelters. And just last week, it was announced that a dorm at Eastern Nazarene College in Quincy would be used to shelter up to 58 families.
But here's the problem. You don't know who some of these people are. You don't know what their history has been, what kind of crimes they used to do from back home. So when you bring them into your home, Do you know what you're bringing in? Is there a background check? Do you know what kind of disease, what kind of issues, what kind of crimes? You want to expose your family to this? This is not to say we shouldn't care for people, but this is not the way we're going to go about it, though. You brought these people in here at the expense of the American dollar, the expense of the taxpayer dollars, although we had nothing to do with it. Now you're telling us to take them in our home, and we're supposed to just be quiet and let you go along with this mindset. You're serious. What kind of proposition is that?
If you are looking to help, please head to our website at WWLP.com for information on donations and how you can become a host family. Working for you at the State House in Boston, Ellen Fleming, 22 News.
Yeah, so are these liberals, a lot of whom are limousine liberals in Massachusetts, right? The Martha's Vineyard liberals, are they going to live up to their yard signs, their Biden-Harris yard signs, and house these illegals in their place? Probably not. Again, evidence being that, again, when they showed up to Martha's Vineyard from Florida, they sent them packing, right? They sent them packing after a couple days because apparently they didn't have the resources to take care of them. So again, when the illegals are in red states like Texas and Arizona and in Florida, illegal immigration is a net benefit, right? It's a net benefit, and they don't take up resources. It's not a strain on the social safety net. That's a right-wing, white nationalist conspiracy theory, right? According to the left, right? According to the left, this is what they say. You are espousing white supremacist talking points to say that illegals take up resources. But lo and behold, when illegals are in places like Chicago, Massachusetts, New York, Washington, D.C., they don't have any resources, right? Their resources are stretched thin, right? It's amazing how that works. It's amazing how the conspiracy theories all of a sudden become right. The white supremacists all of a sudden are correct when it comes to the assertions that, hey, houses of illegals, taking care of illegals ain't free, right? You need resources. It's amazing how that is now a reality when the illegals show up to the Democrats' doorstep, right? It's amazing how that works. Again, this sounds like bigotry to me, okay? But again, I doubt that these liberals are going to live up to their votes, okay, and actually house these illegals, okay? Nope. They voted for the illegals to come to this country. They're not going to house them, okay? In fact, these states should be sending them back to the countries they came from, right? That's what they should be doing, and they should foot that bill without any type of federal funding, okay? It should all be taxpayer funded by the liberals in that state. They should be paying money to ship the illegals back to where they came from, right? That's what they should be doing, okay? And that takes me to New York City, where you have Eric Adams, who is still boohoo, whining, and crying about illegals in his city, despite the fact that New York City is a sanctuary city, okay? And it seems as if the Biden administration has abandoned Eric Adams as he is basically begging Biden to declare a federal state of emergency because of the illegal immigration crisis so that his city can get more funding. Take a look.
To that.
Well, think about what happened in the last few months. We have created a funnel. All of the bordering states have now took the funnel right to New York City. New York City is the economic engine of this entire state and country. If you decimate this city, you're going to decimate the foundation of what's happening. Look at Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, and now you're hearing the governor of Massachusetts. And so when people say, well, we gave them $100 million, $12 billion bill? Yeah. I mean, what
so
table
what
are we dining at?
When you see all the people that are just laying in the streets, you walk by, it is jaw-dropping. Yeah. And the numbers keep coming and coming when you think, I don't have any more room at the end, so to speak.
Along with the unhoused people we already have here.
Exactly.
But you guys said you wanted to take on the illegals. So what's the complaint about now?
Think about the miracle that took place over the last year in April when this really started coming from a governor who wanted to use people as pawns. When you do
as the day progresses, all of this overflow has prompted Mayor Eric Adams to ask for a federal state of emergency and for Massachusetts to declare one as asylum seekers flood their states and sanctuary cities. Leadership pleading for help as the tab runs up.
If we don't get the support we need, New Yorkers could be left with a $12 billion bill.
That $12 billion bill, that's the cost for 3 fiscal years. At the current rate, the migrant crisis costs New York City $383 per family seeking shelters and services each day. With 57,300 individuals in our care, the city says that's a price tag of $9.8 million each and every day. A day after that public cry for help directed at the federal government, we are learning that Mayor Adams is set to meet today with Tom Perez, one of Biden's top aides. But it might be a little too late. New Yorkers are frustrated that non-residents and non-citizens are getting so much help when there are New Yorkers suffering. Protesters shared as much outside of a hospital in Queens that is set to become a tent city for migrants.
That's the problem.
Take a listen.
This whole thing is only going to snowball because the schools are going to open in about 2 weeks. All right, and we're totally unprepared to handle that.
Look behind us. There's a.
But I gotta say this: you gotta vote differently, though. This is why you gotta stop letting these politicians, kind of like. I mean, I'm not blaming the people. Okay, that's not the point. But if you know what they represent and what they stand for, why you keep voting for them? We got to change the way we vote. And definitely protesting is part of the solution. But these poor individuals, they're paying the price. They're paying the price for what these politicians, these liberals, these virtue signaling, that's pretty much what it is. They didn't really care. They're acting like they were caring. But until they're really facing the migrant crisis, now they're crying out for help.
The park, there's a YMCA there. We have a charter school behind us, a preschool on the side.
This is outrageous.
It is.
They're putting non-American before American.
It is outrageous. And I agree. I can sympathize with your anger.
But as the bluest of blue states and cities complain, border states like Texas and Arizona say this is what we've been dealing with for years. The situation on the ground here, though, guys, like I said, hundreds arriving each and every day, and the city expanding into whatever space they can find. Tent City at that hospital in Queens. I was out on Randall's Island converting 4 turf fields into a 2,000-person shelter. City turning anywhere they can, but the residents here very frustrated with that sanctuary city status and what it means in practice.
What it means in practice? This is what it means in practice.
What does that mean for the kids who play soccer out there?
That's a great question, Ainsley. So I actually met a coach that showed up to practice on those fields, and he didn't know what he would do. New York, not a space with a lot of green space. Right. So you have to get permits, you have to get specific time slots. So he says each field is thousands of kids. Mm-hmm. So essentially taking 4 offline, you're impacting minimum 4,000 students in New York that desperately need green space for their mental health, for running around, for sports, and that's now gone.
And NYU, I think, practices there too. Yeah, NYU, I think a lot of college teams, it's unbelievable.
Everyone I know that has a child in sports, they go to Randall's Island to play.
It's all about priorities.
The city's got to.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. These same liberals who probably lined up and voted for Sanctuary City, Eric Adams, and Open Borders Biden, right? Come to the United States, right? That Biden, they're complaining. Okay, they're complaining about Democrats putting illegals before American citizens. And again, this is just another I told you so moment. We told you so. I want people to understand how many resources Democrats are putting behind housing illegals before they put resources behind housing homeless veterans, housing American citizens who need places to stay. They need jobs, right? They have job programs.
And they acted like they didn't have money before, right? And they could have taken care of their own long time ago. That's crazy to me. So most of the homeless issues we have now, they didn't need to exist. They had the money. They had the means to take care of that. But they treated those veterans, the homeless veterans, and many others who are struggling with drugs and so on. They didn't get the proper care that they needed. But the illegals came, we take care of them. Make it make sense.
For illegals, they're trying to get illegals to work, but you're not trying to get the homeless in America to work and to get a job so they can take care of themselves and get off the system, right? Get off the government teat, okay? Nah, they're not trying to do that, okay, with American citizens. They're trying to do that with illegals. Now, again, to get illegals credit, they're probably more willing to work, okay? And they're probably willing to work for cheaper, which is probably, it plays into the Democrats' hands in regards to trying to lower wage inflation, right? If you have a bunch of illegals taking these jobs, they're going to be willing to work for a lot less, okay? Because that's what they're used to. And that's kind of a part of the plan, right? They're going to take a lot of these people's jobs because, again, they're willing to work for less, okay? It's going to put downward pressure on wages. Again, that's the game here, right? This is why the Democrats, people like Brandon Johnson, Chicago, the Democrat mayor, governor in Massachusetts, this is why they're begging to expedite the ability for these illegals to work, because they know a lot of these businesses, they want the cheap labor, right? They want the cheap labor and they need it ASAP, okay? And that's what's happening here, right? That's what's happening here. Instead of sending the illegals back, right, paying money to send them back to where they came from, send them back to South America, okay? And, hey, fend for yourself. No, we're going to have them take the jobs of Americans. We're going to use taxpayer money in order to fund it. And we're also going to beg them to stay in your house, right? Again, all while letting Americans who are actually citizens stay on the streets, be homeless, and to terrorize working folks and law-abiding citizens. Again, this is the state of Democrat-run states, of Democrat-run cities. And again, I'm not sure how much of this needs to happen, how much chaos needs to happen in order for people to realize the consequences of voting Democrat at the national, the federal, and the state and local level. It is devastating, okay? It is devastating across the country. East Coast, West Coast, doesn't matter. It is devastating. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
Thank you for that one. I'm going to put a link in the description below. Again, this is exactly, I agree with the man. It makes a lot of sense to me. Why would... It's sad because the people in New York don't deserve this. The migrants don't deserve this. They probably were fine in their own home. So they left their home, wherever they were, to come here to be homeless. This is crazy. Why would you do that? It's best you took care of them at home. It's best you were supporting them financially at home, making sure that they were okay. It's best you provided the safety that they need instead of saying, come here. And it's, man. What do you do with this thing now? But again, they're going to make money off of it because once those migrants starts working, unfortunately, a lot of Americans don't want to work. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't want to work. A lot of us can't work, unfortunately. So these migrants are going to come in and take the jobs and make a whole lot of money. They're not lazy, though. I've seen some of these, a lot of these Mexicans and many different countries, of course. They're not lazy. They can work. Wow. Anyway, this is what happens when you are betrayed by your government. And I think a lot of these people who voted, they voted for these politicians. They didn't take into consideration what these politicians actually believed and what they were saying. Nothing here is kind of like a shocker for me because most of them were telling you from the very beginning where they stand. So they're not deceiving anybody. They're just doing exactly what they promised they were going to do. So Psalms 55 verse 27 says, my companion stretched out his hands against me, against his friends. He violated his covenant. His speech was smooth as butter, yet war was in his heart. By the way, this is talking about Joab and David. So there's a whole story in the book of Samuel. You can study about what happened to this general of David who actually betrayed David. But listen to what David did as a result. His sword were softer than oil, but they were drawn swords. But I love what David did, and it's what we can do when you have politicians and many people who once you trusted in them, and they betrayed you, and the people in New York have been betrayed. They've been betrayed by the people that they voted for. He says, cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never fall. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. I would say, man, this is a good time to to cast your burden up on the Lord, because these politicians obviously can't help you. They can't. Our confidence cannot be in them. I think those illegals should be cared for, prayed for. Now that they are here, something has to be done. But what has to stop is the influx, right? Them coming in at such a rapid pace, at such a large number. That has to stop, because that's going to destroy the system. It's going to destroy the system. I think we will be okay once they start working. But until then, the people will suffer greatly. And I think the other issue that I see happening, a lot of the homeless that are in America that were there before the illegals came, they themselves are being pushed out of the system because they're being replaced by the illegals. We went to the beach over the weekend, and we saw the homelessness issue in Atlantic City. I never saw it like this before. It wasn't as bad as we saw on the screen, but it was everywhere we turned. We had homeless people on the streets. We had drug abusers on the streets. And remember, there's like people walking around, people going to the beach. We have children around, and we saw it was like they were all over the place. And I was like, that is different. That is different. So we do have a crisis in the city that's impacting every single state. Again, this is what the Democrats have promised, and this is what they're delivering. Cast your burdens upon the Lord, the Bible says, and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to the page, Click Black, and for more. I'm going to put a link in the description below of Black Conservative Perspective. Go check him out. Good guy. I like that guy. Have a good one. Bye.